Hello, awesome people of the internet. Once again, I'm back and this is the wedding series you have tuned into. This is part 2, wedding finances. I'm gonna talk about our wedding within 3 subjects. First, what did we get for the money that we spent? Second, where did we save money? And a little more tips on where you could additionally save some money that we didn't save. And what would we have liked to spend more money on if we had more money to spend? If you are planning a wedding yourself or you're just totally into wedding stuff, kind of like I am, subscribe to the channel because there will be coming a lot more videos on weddings in the future. We ourselves had a wedding budget of 65,000 Danish kroner. Around that amount. In the context of the weddings we know, we made a rather cheap wedding. Not to say we couldn't have saved even more money, but let's get to that in a minute. So the first thing we're gonna look into is our budget, just in general. And I have it here in my computer, and I'm just gonna give you a look into what we spent these 65,000 on. So the first 6,000 is for the rings. Then we have approximately 6,000 for my dress and a little extra for shoes and for a tiara and for, what's that called, a tailor fixing my dress. It had to be made a little bigger. So now the food has a lot of different categories that I'm just gonna show you next to my head, and we spend money on each of the separate items. But in my opinion, our food was pretty cheap because we bought most of it ourselves and we made most of it ourselves. And then we only paid for the materials for the wedding cake. The label was for free, and that was 2,000. It cost us around 6,000 to rent the room and the service and the chairs and all of that. And a big one was a photographer for 8,000. Then we had a piano at the location, so we hired a pianist for 1,600. My husband bought new clothes for 6,000. Then we had the wedding bouquet there and those little bouquets for the chest of the men, and that was around 1,400 altogether. And then to have all the table cards and the invitation made, we spent around 800. So that was just a quick run through the stuff we bought for our wedding. And I think that there's not a lot of excess here, but there are some obvious points where we could have cut down and some stuff we could have spent more money on. So let's talk more about that. First, where can you save money? For our wedding to be this cheap had a great deal to do with the fact that we didn't buy a finished party. That's something that saves you a lot of money, even though we had to pay the waiters like 8,000 and buy all the food and rent the room. It doesn't come close to buying a finished party, because that maybe have an envelope price of more than 1,000, and we had like 100 people there, so you can see what that adds up to. So it saved us a lot of money and it was more work, but on the other hand, we could decide every step of the way what we wanted in the salad bar, when we wanted things to be served, whatever, every little step we could have an influence on. If you don't care that much about having pictures from your entire party, use money on good portraits and then not more. Save money on that. If your style is more relaxed and beachy, don't buy a wedding dress like I did, like a princess one. Buy something that's just a dress and it's white and it matches your style. You could save like 6,000 on that. That's very, very much. Also, the question of live music versus just a jukebox or a computer or something, that's a big deal, and that's where you can save a lot of money. We did something in between where we found a family member who wasn't going to the wedding who could play for us, and thereby we cut the price a little. Flower arrangements. We chose to pick up our own flowers, and that saved us a great deal of money. I just talked to one of my coworkers, and their flowers altogether were going to be like 4,000 or 5,000. So we cut that very, very much down. Also, we choose to get wedding rings, but you don't have to. Try and think a little more actively about what traditions you choose to participate in. do you actually want this, or are you just going with the flow? And then pick the ones that you like instead of just the ones that come along with all of it. Just be more mindful of that. And if rings are something you're never gonna wear, don't buy them. Your marriage is not gonna be worse because you don't have rings. Also, if your husband-to-be has a nice suit, maybe you could just get a new shirt or something and use his old suit, because nobody's really gonna care. And my husband's suit from the wedding has not been used a lot, and now it's too big for him, so that was like 6,000 out the window. Too bad, right? So save there if that's what you want. Yeah, you can see I could list a ton of ideas, but I think you should just comment below what you think is a great way to save money on a wedding. Like, where would you like to make the cut? One thing that I really wanted to do that my husband were not in on, that would have saved us so much money, is I had this idea that I wanted a wedding where it was just a giant ass pot of some delicious stew or something, like rice and some Indian curry. And then that was just what people ate. Not all this fuss about a big fancy menu and servants coming and giving it to you. Just a big pot. And then everybody had fun. Well, my husband were not completely in on that, so we ended up with the hog roast, and that's totally fair. But we could have saved a lot of money if that's what we wanted on doing my my wish. So this is the first one, the big things you can save on. The second one is really DIYs. Everything that you can do yourself. And I'm going to make an entire video of DIYs for a wedding, because we made so many things ourselves, or found people in our near network that could do them for us instead of buying them. So I'm going to devote an entire video to this. But just keep in mind with everything, could we make this ourselves? And in that case, how much money could we save? Because there's a lot to be saved there. Like the wedding cake, I said 2,000. If you were going to a pastry chef or something fancy, 2,000 would only get you to rent the thing that the cake stands on, So just think about that. Especially in the Danish form of weddings, where the cake has to serve like 250 people. Easy. And then the third thing that is really, really the most important in my opinion. Try and lower your expectations of what a perfect wedding is. A perfect wedding is not a wedding that will bankrupt you or that will spend so much money that you're going to regret it. A perfect wedding is one where you're just going to feel good, where you can relax, because if you're not the type of person to have a fancy wedding with small decorative appetizers, then you're not gonna feel very comfortable when you sit there and look all pretty in your suit or your dress and be in the focus and everything. We chose a buffet for all 3 courses because we wanted this casualness of our wedding, that people could just go to the buffet, chit chat a little here and there, and oh hi, where are you sitting? And it did a lot to the whole feel of the wedding. Everybody's talking about our wedding as if it was so relaxed. And they're talking about it as a relaxed wedding because weddings normally are not relaxed. You sit there, your back hurts because you're all tied up, and oh, there's a server and it's like, oh, I don't want more wine. Stop it, you crazy. And people don't really want that. It looks fancy on all the pictures, but a lot of people don't want that. So lower your expectations and then be better at listening to yourself and see what you want, instead of, well, what have every other wedding I've been to been like? And if you want a fancy wedding, do that. I wanted the fancy princess dress and I did that. Just do that if you want it. But if you don't want it, don't do it because other people want it. Okay, time to dream. Because number 3 of wedding finances is really, what would I have done if I'd had more money? And the first one is, I would have liked not to have a budget for my dress. Like, I found another dress that was like 10,000 and it was really, really pretty, just my style. And I ended up buying this one, and this one was so my style too, so it's not a big compromise. But I would just have loved to go to some more exclusive places, and I would have loved to be free to just spend like 25,000 on the dress, to be honest. Maybe I just watched too much Say Yes to the Dress. Who knows? But it's just, oh, isn't that every girl's dream? Also, I know I said we spent like a good 8,000 on a wedding photographer, but he wasn't a professional photographer. He was an amateur photographer. And a lot of the pictures he took really isn't our style. Like, the best pictures he took, he made them black and white. And we asked for colored photos, and we can't get them in color. So the very best pictures, we only have in black and white. And I hate black and white. It is dull and boring, and what the fuck? So, yeah. I would have liked to just spend the 8 or 9 or 10,000 on a very good photographer for some awesome portraits, and then just get some uncle to take some photos if you want to, because the rest of the party you just have to experience. It's the experience that you'll keep forever. The pictures, they can burn, your computer can crash, you can lose them while moving, whatever. The memories are the most important. So I would have spent a lot more money on some awesome portraits and probably not have a photographer walk around among us until the end of the night. And that's actually all I can think about. When scripting this, I was at my computer and I was thinking through all of the wedding thing. What would I have liked to spend more money on? And that's it. I can't think of anything else. Maybe you have some suggestions. What was the one thing where you felt like you splurged, where you went all in because you wanted this? Well, this was actually what I'm going to talk about with this wedding finances. I think if you just make a budget when you begin, just estimate, like, or ask a friend, like, can we see your budget, just to see, well, how much can we expect with what work we're going to put in? Then it's going to be totally fine. Just talk with your partner, like really get chatting so you have a clear idea of where you agree that it will be okay to just save the money and don't do that, and where you both are real passionate. And then, like we did, come to an agreement in between. Like, he wanted the classical wedding menu that's a lot more expensive, and I wanted the big Indian curry style wedding. So we had to find something in between, and that was an okay compromise. And that's the most important thing. Just get those compromises in the beginning so you know where we're gonna spend our money, what's it gonna cost. So anyway, good luck planning your wedding or whatever you're up to now. Just really enjoy the process if you're planning your wedding. Okay? I miss planning a wedding. It was so fun. You're super in control of everything because it's your wedding. Nobody can say anything because you're the boss. If you have any questions about wedding budgeting, just ask them in the comments and I will be sure to answer them, because I think this is such a fun subject, this party planning. I should really become a wedding planner. Like, when I'm too old at being a nurse, just take a shift in careers. I'm pretty sure I would love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so the first